Okay, so once again, yes, I am having to run a space heater. On the bright side, it's not 20 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, it's 16 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, so yeah, it's still kind of cold. Again, I got, they say it's supposed to warm up next week, but not for long, unfortunately. Anyway, let's move right into WWE Day 1. Saturday pay-per-views for most of 2022, outside of... There's 2 Sunday shows, and of course WrestleMania is going to be over 2 days. So, I can't remember how many Sunday shows are going to be this year. I want to say it's 2 or 3, not counting Mania, but... yeah, that's kind of the weird thing. They decided they're going to start posting these on Saturday, except for, I want to say Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, and Survivor Series. I may be wrong on that. I can't, yeah. Again, it's been a while since I checked the schedule, but still. Anyway, and we had big news going into this as literally an hour before the show was supposed to start, news broke that Roman Reigns had tested positive for COVID. So he obviously could not compete tonight, so they decided to transfer Brock Lesnar into the WWE Fatal 4-Way match, which is now a Fatal 5-Way match. And yeah, that kind of set me ill feeling right off the bat. Like, well, I know it's probably going to happen here. I hope it doesn't, but... Anyway, yeah, the show had I understand they had to drop a match, but it doesn't explain why they then dropped the Intercontinental Championship match that was scheduled for this. It was supposed to be Nakamura versus Zayn, but we didn't even get that. Like, then don't advertise it. If you're not going to run the match, don't advertise it. And yeah, I know, cards subject to change, but, you could have used that and padded things out a little bit more, because this thing was... I mean, it wasn't short, but, we could have cut out a lot of this filler stuff you kept running in between the matches. If you were going to drop a match, why not drop... anyway, let's move on to the show. Our first match was the kickoff show match. It was Cesaro and Ricochet teaming up against Sheamus and Ridge Holland. Technically, that was what it was supposed to be, as very early on, Ridge Holland took a move where... Ricochet was supposed to kind of flip up into kind of a double stomp type maneuver. Cesaro was supposed to flip Ricochet and was supposed to land into a double stomp, basically. Except Ricochet aimed his foot a little too high and appeared to break Ridge Holland's nose and probably concussed him as well, because he got taken to the back. And this turned into a 2-on-1 handicap match, where the good guys are ganging up on the bad guy, and Sheamus. Sheamus, kind of fought back. Occasionally Ricochet would get a few other moves in. Cesaro got some moves in. He did the swing and everything. Went for the neutralizer. Sheamus blocked it. Ricochet tried to go for kind of a plancha type maneuver. Sheamus caught him, hit white noise on the outside of the ring, which incapacitated Ricochet long enough for Sheamus to get back in the ring and hit Cesaro with the bro kick for the 3 count of the victory. So, yes, the valiant heel Sheamus bravely fought off the dastardly good guys in Cesaro and Ricochet. Again, just a weird kind of comedy of errors match where nothing seemed to quite go right. Again, this is clearly being made to help build Ridge Holland, but he didn't get to work that much, so... yeah, if you don't remember Ridge Holland too much, he was the guy I misidentified as, I think, Dexter Lumis on NXT, because I was watching with the sound off at that point. He was supposed to be part of Pat McAfee's crew for the War Games, but then, quite literally in his first match on NXT, he blew his knee out. And he came back, teamed with Pete Dunne for 2 or 3 weeks, and then just as quickly got drafted up to the main roster. So, my experience with Ridge Holland is very, very limited, unfortunately. Alright, moving on to the show proper. We opened up that with the Smackdown Tag Team Championship match. The Usos taking on the New Day. And you had Xavier Woods, or King Woods, proudly proclaiming that he was back in his hometown of Atlanta, which that's not a good omen in wrestling nowadays. Early on, not too much here. Jade distracted, allowing Jimmy to get kind of a... what was this? What did I write? To allow Jimmy to get an upper hand. Kofi came back in a single leg drop kick. Basically, this was a really good match. Teams kept getting their moves in back and forth. Woods got the hot tag at one point. He had Jimmy had a splash. Kofi kicked out. Woods got the big tag. New Day hit the decapitation for 2. They were going for the midnight hour, but Jay broke that up, and the Usos hit the double splash. But Xavier managed to break that pin up, the double splash on Kofi. And then the Usos came back, fought a little bit more, caught Xavier with another super kick, came back into the ring and hit Kofi with basically the 3D, though it's now called the 1D for day 1. So, yeah, they're the ones. So, it looks like the Usos finally got a new finisher, and other than the Uso splash. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a really good match, really solid match. The Usos retain. Probably good given the light of the situation. It probably wouldn't make sense to take the championships off them if Roman's going to be out for, at least a week. I mean, it should probably be okay for Friday, but going into that, I don't know. But still, like I said, good way to start the show off. Everything was going well. And then we got to the match that, this was the kind of the death knell for the show, unfortunately. It was Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss. This match went way too long. To be honest, I thought it opened up kind of well. Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin came out, and they're running down the crowd. They had this joke about Atlanta's the biggest city in Georgia. Obviously, that's by weight. McIntyre comes out. Understandably, Moss gets a few licks in, and then it just kind of kept going and going and going. McIntyre was throwing Moss around, but then, Corbin distracted long enough for Moss to shove McIntyre into the post. Moss got in a few more moves. McIntyre tried to go for a future shock. Moss fought out of it for some reason. Yeah, and that's where it kind of fell apart. No, this is what happens. Corbin distracts McIntyre. It looks like Moss has a bit of an upper hand. McIntyre comes back, hits the Glasgow Kiss, the Future Shock, the Claymore, ball game. And that didn't happen. Instead, we got them plodding around the ring for an additional... And I understand because they lost a match, they're trying to pad the show out, but there were better ways to do that. For example, the WWE Intercontinental Championship match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn that was supposed to be on this show that got dropped for some reason. Again, if you're, maybe you could have put that match in there, because instead we get vignette after vignette after vignette, promo after promo after promo, backstage interview after backstage. It's like, you're clearly trying to fill up time. Why not just have that match in there? And instead we get this dud of a match that no one cared about, and this is also where the technical presentation began to get in the way. We were cutting to crowd shots in the middle of moves. And this happened frequently throughout the rest of the show, to the point that it really did get annoying. However, that does lead us into our next match, which is the Raw Tag Team Championship match, RK Bro versus the Street Profits. And RK Bros came down to the ring accompanied by Migos, the rep group. And, definitely was over, definitely got a good pop. Although you would think the Street Profits would be the ones to be accompanied by the rap group, since they're a little more rap-oriented, but okay. Anyway, this was a pretty decent little match. Not as good as the first tag match, but definitely had some good moments. Migos sat at ringside at the announce table. They were not on with the announcers, but they just sat next to the table. Dawkins hit a nice little leapfrog and kind of like a spinning back shoulder move. Orton used the ref to hit a quick thumb to Ford's eye. Ford blocked an RKO up into an enziguri. Ford basically had a big plancha onto the outside of the ring to Orton and Riddle. And then Orton came back. He had a double Hangman DDT on both those Street Profits. Again, the Street Profits fought back a bit more. Ford went up for his frog splash. Orton rolled out of the way. Riddle got into the ring, got kind of a flapjack-like maneuver on Ford to allow Orton to hit the RKO for the 3 count and the victory. Again, it was a nice little maneuver, good high impact, high spots match. Not terrible, but again, it's like, boy, you know, I wish this had been a little bit longer. Maybe, you know, again, that previous match had been shorter. But that wasn't entirely the case. Unfortunately, again, this was kind of blown by, again, you know, shots to the crowd in the middle of moves, shots of Migos in the middle of moves, shots to other people in the middle of the moves. It's just like, guys, not in the middle of moves. After the move, then you cut to the crowd reacting, not in the middle of it. Afterwards, though, the teams kind of made good, especially with Migos, and everything seemed stable afterwards, so whether or not that Street Profits heel turn is going to happen soon, I'm not entirely sure, but at least for now, it seems to be off the table. And that leads us into our next match, The Miz versus Edge. Edge once more does the Brute entrance, given that he did the bloodbath last week on Raw. Made a lot of sense. Right off the bat, Miz managed to catch Edge off guard and hit a big hip toss. Edge tried to get a crossface very early on, but Miz kind of fought out of it. He got to the ropes a couple of times. And then, after one of the moves, unfortunately my feet dropped on me, so I missed a portion of it. By the time I got back, I got the tail end of a replay where Edge hit the implant DDT off of the apron, which looked rather impressive. I don't know if that, yeah, like I said, I forget what he calls it. Is it the education, or is it the execution, or is it the edge-o-matic? Yeah, one was the submission hold. I can't remember. Yeah, one was the submission hold, and the other was the DDT. Let's see. Edge countered a skull-crushing finale into a facebuster on the announce table. Miz chop-lug Edge and got the figure 4 on. He tried to use the Miz and Maurice tried to use the ropes for some leverage, but got caught. Eventually, Maurice managed to get enough of a distraction to hit Edge with her purse. I don't know, what happened was Edge went for the spear, Miz dodged it. Looked like he tweaked his knee, which distracted the ref enough for Maurice to hit Edge with her purse. And at this is where, again, things got kind of bungled. We cut to a shot of the crowd, we cut to Miz hitting the skull-crushing finale, covering for only a 2 count, cut to the crowd again, cut to the Miz looking up at the top of the ring, everyone looking up at the top of the ring. Suddenly we cut to a shot of Beth Phoenix standing at the top of the ramp. Then Beth Phoenix's music hits. Beth Phoenix comes down to chase off Maurice and help her husband. Edge hits the spear and gets the victory. Good match right up until the end, and then it got cluttered. Like, again, you have Beth Phoenix's music hit, then Beth shows up, then you cut to, yeah. You don't cut to her standing there like snarling and snorting, and then just waiting for her music to hit, and then proceed. Like, no, it looks stupid. Ugh. But again, like, this is where the show kind of started to fall apart in these places. Like, you had a pretty darn good match, and then it fell apart again. After that, we had the Raw Women's Championship match, Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. You know, they're saying, like, the crowd was really behind Morgan and everything, but I noticed it was more mixed. You know, again, I guess people still really don't want to boo Becky Lynch right now, and, you know, we've gotten the Liv Morgan tease so many times that, you know, maybe it won't follow through, especially the way this happened. Like, early on, Morgan got some good shots, and she hit kind of a variation on her Oblivion finisher, kind of in more of a springboard fashion rather than just catching someone off the second rope. You know, Lynch came back, hit a top rope kick, countered a torpe with a kick, and then Morgan fought back. She locked on the Rings of Saturn as a submission hold, but Lynch got to the ropes. Lynch kind of came back, as this happened, like, she hit several maneuvers, she hit her guillotine leg drop, didn't quite get a, 3 count. Every time Liv managed to fight back a little bit, Becky began to lose more and more of her composure, and that seemed to set things up pretty well. Morgan did come back and a flow over DDT and a sunset bomb. Lynch went for the disarm her, but Morgan got to the ropes. And again, this is where they sort of like, okay, oh, Lynch is snapping, so you think, oh, she's going to hold on and get the DQ, but that didn't happen. Then, Morgan hits her with a missile dropkick, knocking her out of the ring. Okay, this is going to be a count out. No, that doesn't happen. Morgan comes back, stomps Lynch's hand in the ring steps the way Lynch stomped her hand in the ring steps last week. Barely avoids the count out. Goes for her Oblivion finisher. Lynch blocks it into a manhandle slam off the second rope. Covers. Tries to use the ropes for leverage. Unfortunately, she's a little too short to try to get it. It didn't, again, a bungled finish. Cut to the crowd mid-move as well. And, yeah, it's a 3 count of the victory. And, again, this is supposed to look like Lynch had to cheat again, but she didn't. She won clean, which means, whatever momentum Liv Morgan had is now gone. So, they're going to have to rebuild Liv Morgan again for like the 3rd or 4th time in the last year. This is not how you do these things. I mean, this is just not good. This is, again, the match itself was fine until it fell apart at the end. Just clunkiness and bloopers and everything. And that leads us into our main event, the WWE Fatal 5-Way match. Big E versus Seth freaking Rollins versus Kevin Owens versus Bobby Lashley, now versus Brock Lesnar. Right off the bat, Rollins and Owens jumped Lesnar. He hit suplexes on both. Lashley and Big E brawled to the outside of the ring. Big E managed to knock Lashley out just enough to come in and get Lesnar's attention. Lesnar went for an F5, but then Big E clotheslined Lesnar out of the ring. That enabled Lashley to throw Big E into the ring post and then hit a spear on Lesnar, driving him through the barricade. Rollins and Owens teamed up on Lesnar and Lashley primarily and just started taking both of them out, hitting them with chairs, hitting them with the ring steps, trying to send Lashley through the table. Didn't quite work there, but power bomb. They hit Lesnar with a DDT on the ring steps. I know that. But then Big E got in, hit an Uranagi on Lashley through the announce table. Lesnar. Sorry, I'm goofing these up because there's too many guys in this. Owens and Rollins tried to work together, tried to get a couple of pins. Rollins hit a frog splash. Owens hit a pop-up power bomb and got pin attempts on it. Lesnar gets in, hits F5s on, I believe it was Big E, Owens, and Rollins. But then Lashley got in the ring, speared Lesnar, only got a 2 count, went for the Hurt Lock, seemed to have that on, but Big E got in, hits Lashley with the big ending, and instead of just going for the pin, instead tried to hit Lesnar with the big ending. Lesnar counters into the F5 for the 3 count and the victory. Brock Lesnar is once again WWE Champion. Whoop-de shit. Yeah, again, I've made it known on this show that I'm tired of Brock Lesnar as champion. The only bright side I'd say in this is now maybe Big E can go after Reigns. If we're not going to do Lesnar Reigns at Mania, I'm hoping that it's not going to be Rock. Just stop that shot. Stop that right now. It's not going to happen. Okay, stop with this. Okay, it's not going to happen. The Screen Actors Guild won't let him. He'll lose his health insurance. Okay? We've been through this. But again, at the end, you saw Lashley staring angrily at Lesnar, so maybe something can come of that. Maybe we could have Big E win the Rumble and go after Reigns. That's the match I'd rather see, because I think that would provide a new and more exciting matchup than for anything else. Don't know what they're doing with McIntyre. They did something with, backstage. If it's not over between him and Corbin and Moss because they jumped McIntyre backstage and Corbin Pillmanized, used a scaffolding and a chair to Pillmanize McIntyre's neck. So, yeah, like I said, I wanted to like this show. Like, most of the matches were not terrible. There was one terrible match, but yeah. like I said, most of them were not terrible. Good action, but just really bad presentation throughout this whole thing. Cutting to the crowd mid-maneuvers is so amateurish, and I do expect better from WWE in that sense, and that was just really poorly done. Like, again, I can cut them a little slack on, having to reshuffle the card around because of Reigns' COVID, but then why drop the Intercontinental Championship match? Again, that probably would have helped fill some of that dead air that you're throwing promos in. Anyway, yeah, so like I said, not, terrible show, just really disappointing. I'm going to give day one a C. Just average, really. Like I said, there were good parts of the matches, but it had more to do. Every major problem I had to do was presentation than it really had to do with anything else. Again, just the cutting to the, Beth Phoenix standing at the top of the entranceway, just, looking like an idiot until her music cues up, and then like, if you're, I won't reiterate that, but you get the idea. Okay, so next video should be the recap and review for Book of Boba Fett Episode 2. After that, I'm not sure. Next wrestling is obviously going to be the Royal Rumble. I'll probably have another Madden video up because I want to explain a few more things that I haven't gotten to be able to really explain. Hopefully this will get up in a reasonable amount of time. And I've been having some problems with my video editing software that have hopefully cleared up now. At least to the point where I can have a better grasp of it. So again, I'm hoping I can get videos out on a regular basis. Like I said, it's probably going to be more Madden videos than there are going to be, movie and TV reviews. Obviously, when Book of Boba Fett concludes, there'll be a video for that as well. But I'm trying to stretch things out a little bit more here because December in particular, November and December got really crunchy, where too many videos came out too close to each other. And again, having a little more space really helps in that aspect. Okay, see you all next time. Hey guys, remember to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/SleepyTimeForCat Productions, where you can help me expand my wrestling coverage to stuff beyond WWE, NXT, and the occasional AEW free show.